It may surprise you to learn that people falsely confess to crimes they didn't commit all the time. A lot. Now, why in heaven's name would someone confess to a crime they did not commit? The second commonest reason people are wrongfully convicted and sent to prison and then are later exonerated on the basis of DNA evidence is that they were sent away by their own misstatements, by their own false confessions. The number one reason for false convictions or erroneous convictions, wrongful convictions, is persuasive eyewitness testimony that just got it wrong. But the second commonest reason is that people make confessions that they did something when in fact they are totally innocent. So why do people do this? Well, here's again an example where psychiatry and law come together. There are basically three kinds of false confessions: voluntary, coerced, and implanted. Voluntary confessions are made by individuals who are a little unstable, a little loosely wrapped. They may have a need to expiate guilt for some real or imagined offense they committed years ago, or they may be intensely narcissistic individuals who have to be at the center of attention, or they may be very confused. And the police are very quick to recognize these kinds of unstable individuals and almost summarily dismiss their confessions. Would that they be so sensitive to the erroneous confessions that they themselves inadvertently generate. Which brings us to the second form of false confessions, those which are coerced. Now, police don't use rubber hoses anymore, but they have a series of techniques which are perhaps even more effective. I'm sure you've seen some of these on these cop shows. There's the good cop, bad cop, where they play the prisoner for about 10, 12 hours and wear him down. That way, the punishing cop and then the one giving absolution. Or they may appeal to the individual as being a stand-up guy, and stand-up guys come forward and say what they need to say. And after 10 or 12 hours of interrogation, the police may suggest that all you have to do is give us what we're asking for. We only want the truth, and we can put an end to this, and perhaps you can go home, and we can help you. You help us, we help you. These techniques obviously are more effective for people who are somewhat debilitated and juveniles. But in point of fact, though they are quite efficacious in getting guilty people to confess, they're even more effective on people who are innocent. People who have committed a crime tend to be somewhat con-wise. They have a built-in resistance to these police interrogations, whereas a person who is innocent, and their guard is down, they may even fear that if they refuse to talk or insist on the presence of counsel, they may really make themselves suspect. They may also think that they don't have to worry about a casual or ambiguous statement because surely as the investigation proceeds, evidence will be found that will exonerate them, not realizing that once the police get a confession, however ambiguous, the inquiry stops, and exonerating evidence as may be out there will never be obtained. So innocent people, after 10 or 12 hours of this kind of interrogation, get worn down, and finally, a substantial number may then indeed confess. At this point, the video cameras are turned on, and it's the last 20 minutes of a 12-hour interrogation is recorded, and the witness spontaneously describes how he, I'm sorry, not the witness, but the prisoner, defendant-to-be, spontaneously describes how he committed the crime. Of course, later, maybe the next day, because he knows he didn't do it, he will recant. But it's too late. He's got his confession there on that videotape. That's what's shown to the jury. And again, juries intuitively believe that no man would confess to a crime they didn't commit, and his recantation doesn't cut any ice. This brings us to the third false confession, that which is implanted by the police. And here the police really believe they know who did it and how he did it. And over a period of 10, 12, 15 hours, they go over it and over it with this individual and gradually persuade them that maybe they did it. They give him a motive, they give him a means, and they give him a way out. Anybody in those circumstances would have done what you did. I can understand that. I don't see anything wrong with that. You can tell us. We can appreciate. We empathize with your situation, and they supply all kinds of corroborating evidence, some of which they probably fabricate, and gradually persuade the individual that he did it. And, again, they always make sure he has an out. You must have blacked out. Most people in those circumstances would black out. That's why your memory for what you did isn't very sound. And we see a gradual change over that all-day interrogation where the guy first says, I didn't do it, to, well, I guess theoretically I could have done it, to, well, maybe I did it, or I guess I did it, until finally, yeah, I did it. That's when they turn on the video camera and the man now spontaneously describes in detail how he did it. Again, his later recantations are of no avail because the jury intuitively believes no man would confess to something he didn't do. So the task, again, is the attorney, hand in glove with the psychiatric testimony, has to explain to the jury how their intuitions can be wrong.